Donald Trump looked like death at his, whatever you want to call the event was last night. Look at him with Dana White. Look at him as the national anthem was playing. He once again collapsed and fell asleep during the UFC fights that were taking place. It all went wrong for Donald Trump. He had to basically give up everything that he told the American people he wouldn't in order to secure a peace deal with Iran, a deal far weaker than former President Obama's JCPOA. Then you had the reflecting pool, which Donald Trump talks about all the time, turned a weird color like Ninja Turtle green. Not only was there algae, it was like the worst algae ever. Now, we predicted on the MeidasTouch network the algae would come back right away because the same water source of the Potomac Basin wasn't changed and they didn't really change the filtration system. But boy, that algae came back with vengeance and it looked worse than ever right now. So you had that going on. And then you just had this UFC event, which was odd. You had these UFC fighters. I don't know, I thought they were being funny and they were like, Michelle Obama is a man. Ha 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 ha. Like, it's not funny. The American people are suffering right now. I mean, we're dealing with issues of war and peace, life and death. And you have Donald Trump there sleeping during this bizarre UFC event. And, earlier in the day, Donald Trump posted, he's like, we now have a peace deal with Iran. The Strait of Hormuz is open. And then, like, quite literally minutes later, he goes, I mean, the Strait of Hormuz will be open on Friday, but we're removing our blockade immediately. And as more details emerged of what went down, it seemed that MB Ghalibaf, Iran's parliament leader, had basically told Donald Trump that if you don't allow us to have certain final terms in here that we want, we're going to have no deal. We're not going to sign this. We know you want this signed like on your birthday. And then Donald Trump just basically gave in to all of the terms. As we're learning more about what was actually agreed to here, it seems that there's going to be at least $24 billion or so given to Iran pretty much up front. And then there's going to be potentially a $300 billion investment fund, a combination of equity investments, loans to Iran as well. It's being framed as like a Middle East investment fund. And then you have the United States, basically agreeing to all of Iran's other terms. And by the way, I think that we should never have been involved in this unlawful and catastrophic war in the first place. Between all options, we should never have been there, but I think that there should be a deal and America needs to kind of get the hell out of here. I just think it's worth noting that Donald Trump had said there's going to be regime change and we're going to make sure that Iran gets rid of their nuclear dust. And, based on the terms, Iran's allowed to enrich their uranium. They have to have it at a low grade, but they're allowed to enrich uranium, forever. It's a weaker version of Obama's deal with weaker mechanisms of oversight, but that's basically what you got here. And you can tell, as I mentioned at the outset, Donald Trump had these deer in headlight looks. You had, I'll show you right here just what he looked like. Hat tip to the fine folks over at Call to Activism, which were able to get some shots. So they put a hat on him in order to hide the fact that his eyes were shut. Like, this was truly a Weekend at Bernie's moment. Here, let's play this clip. Because before that, he was falling asleep. Then someone had to put a hat on him to cover his eyes because he was so obviously sleeping. Here, play this clip. Then you had these UFC fighters getting saluted by our troops. Like, why are UFC fighters being saluted? You have this guy, Josh Hokett, more on him in a second. These other fighters over here getting saluted. You see our service members saluting the UFC fighters. You had Hochul giving Donald Trump the medal, like they have to give Donald Trump the medal when they win. I mean, how weird is that? And then after gifting his chain to Donald Trump, that Josh Hochul fighter goes, Michelle Obama's a man. It's like, why is that funny? That's not, what do you like no offense to like fifth graders, but like a weird bully fifth grader. I mean, why are we doing this in the White House? Why with everything the American people are experiencing, this is what you're doing? Here, play this clip.
And lastly, Michelle Obama is a man.
And by the way, you don't have to like listen to me about that the American people hate this. A new Fox poll shows the same. Harry Enton over at CNN reported on what the latest Fox poll said. Here, play this clip.
Let's just say this much. They do not like it. They don't like it. I like UMR, but Americans don't find this thing to be appropriate. Take it here. Take a look here. UFC White House fights are appropriate. Just 16% overall. And among Republicans, even among Republicans, you know, the diehard base Republican Party with Trump through thick and thin, just 31% of Republicans. His approval rating amongst Republicans overall, as you know, usually hovers a little bit north of 80%. So we're talking 50 points lower here. And, you know, this overall, you know, being 16%, you know, what is it, like 28% of Americans, you know, believe in telepathy. So this is even below that.
Does this fall into a broader pattern with the White House of voters' minds?
Yeah, I think this is the big problem here, Omar, which is, you know, Americans just don't think that Donald Trump and this White House is in touch with them because, you know, they put on stuff like that Americans don't really care about. Take a look here. Say the White House is out of touch with people like you. 60% overall. We're talking about 3 in 5 Americans. And look among independents. 80% of independents say that the White House is out of touch with people like them. So all of a sudden you have a White House that is potentially putting on events such as this UFC fights. And, you know, Americans' top issue is inflation. And what's Trump's net approval rating on that? Like minus 50? And you go to yourself, okay, appropriate, no on the UFC fights. And then you put it together with what they actually care about. No wonder that the American people say 60% say the White House is out of touch with people like them and 80% of independents.
Yeah, because people don't want to, like, you know, Secretary Doug Burgum's like land of the free, home of the brave. And it's all these fighter jets flying over Washington, D.C. The United States Air Force Thunderbirds and the U.S. Navy Blue Angels kicked off the event. And you have Doug Burgum posting it. This is what it looked like as well. I'll show you just the video of it that was posted here. Let's play it. Right? Like, I think the American people look at that and go, okay, instead of doing that, can you not take away my health care? Like, can I please get health care? Can I please have a better education? Can I please have payment for the work that I do when I work a job? Can I get paid with dignity, please? Like, can I please not have to live paycheck to paycheck and be psychologically tortured? Can you stop like removing these critical government programs that I need to live for me and my family? Can you stop like shutting down Ebola detection and screwworm detection? And can you stop like gutting the Weather Service and gutting the CDC? And can you stop like gutting important medical research if like you don't like the first 4 letters that it starts with, or the first 5? They're like, ooh, it's transgenic. That sounds like transgender, so let's not do Alzheimer's research. It's like, American people, stop with the culture war crap. Stop with all this theatrics. Just deliver for the American people. And by the way, you know, Eric Trump disputes this. So let me be very clear. He denies this, and the White House is saying that this is all AI. But let me show you what was going down. In a now deleted post by Daniel Cormier, he's a UFC guy, Eric Trump apparently DM'd him and asked him, are any of the fights tomorrow rigged? Eric says this never happened, that this was all AI, and that this is a made-up thing, and that none of this conversation was real. And there's like multiple versions of this story where you're like, I don't know who he is. It's all AI. I know who he is. But here's what Daniel Cormier posted. I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for bringing this to light. However, I refuse to stay silent. The UFC is a sport that I'm deeply passionate about. I will not tolerate this type of insider behavior. Shame on anyone trying to ruin this beautiful event. And it's purportedly a message from Eric Trump. And Eric says, this wasn't me, this was all AI. But this has been widely reported. Hey, Daniel, I'm going to be attending UFC. Saw you were casting. Hope to see you there. Yo, Eric, didn't expect a DM from you. Excited to meet you and the family. Much love, brother. Anything you can tell me about the fighters tomorrow? Who you got winning? Haha. I like to stay unbiased, but I love the nickel fight. You placing any bets? Nah, I'm actually not allowed to place bets on the cards. Are any of the fighters injured that you know of? I'm not quite sure why you're asking me this, but I think they're all in good shape. I'll just cut to the chase. Are any of the fights tomorrow rigged? I've been eyeing the Lopez fight, and I think an upset wouldn't be too unrealistic. Money, money, money. Answer, none of our fights are rigged. Honestly, I'm appalled that you would even ask me something like this. Now, Eric and the White House say this is all false. None of this happened. Fake news, AI. But it's awfully weird that that's being posted and whatever. Now, the Iranian media published the full text of the statement of the deal that was agreed to. The U.S. doesn't deny that this was the deal. And as you go through, it's the 14-point term that we've talked about before. Lifting of the U.S. naval blockade actually needs to take place immediately. Suspending all sanctions on Iranian oil and petrochemicals. A halt to the war on all fronts, including Lebanon. Reopening the Strait of Hormuz within 30 days under Iranian arrangements. Iran and Oman control the shipping lanes in the Strait of Hormuz. $300 billion investment fund, $24 billion in Iranian blocked funds they receive. The final deal needs to be blessed by the UN Security Council. And one of the things that we learned was happening earlier in the day. Trump was prepared to offer Iran additional concessions beyond those already agreed to for Iran not to strike Israel. So earlier in the day, as I reported, Israel wanted to derail the peace negotiations. Israel struck Daya in Beirut, which was always a red line when it came to Iran. And then Iran was going to retaliate against Israel, and apparently Trump called MB Ghalibaf directly or reached out directly to Prime Minister Sharif of Pakistan and said, what else do they want? What else do they want? I want to make sure this deal gets done on my birthday. Tell them not to, shoot at Israel for now. And then Netanyahu and Israel's living at Donald Trump. They're like, you sold us out. You sold us out. And it's like, Israel got us involved, and Netanyahu got us involved in this not us, but the United States, us, yeah, in this catastrophic and unlawful war, in the first place. And it's like the audacity there, And look, as I mentioned, this deal doesn't get rid of Iran's nuclear dust. Iran's permitted to enrich at low levels of uranium. And it's basically all the other points that we were talking about on the Meidas. Remember when I was talking about the framework, Aragchi's framework? It's that. It's the same framework that we knew about in, whenever it was, mid-March, late March, early April. It's the exact same framework that Trump agreed to when the ceasefire happened, with a little bit more pro-Iranian terms even, but that's what it is. Let's be very clear, though, as well. I have no doubt. Israel's already said, we're not abiding by this deal. We don't agree. I think the exact message from Israel's defense minister is, Lebanon is ours. Syria is ours. We're not leaving. Gaza is ours. It isn't. It isn't yours. It isn't yours. But that's what they're saying. And so obviously I think, we'll see and we'll learn more. Israel strikes in Beirut and Lebanon soon. Israel's going to do everything they can to try to break this up. That's obvious to me. The neocons, the war hawks, are going to do everything they can to try to break this up. The signing is going to be Friday in Geneva. J.D. Vance, MB Ghalibaf will be signing this together. MB Ghalibaf Iran Parliament's later, J.D. Vance, Vice President. The signing's supposed to happen in Geneva. Look, by the time this video publishes, Israel's probably going to engage in actions and more attacks in Beirut to try to blow this up. And, I know that Donald Trump is transfixed on, whatever this weird UFC crap is. And by the way, if you enjoy this, I'm not saying you don't, I'm not trying to be you can't watch it. Go watch it. Just it doesn't need to be this isn't what the function of our government should be. This is not what government is about. It's not what governance and leadership is about. It's not what politics should be about. If you enjoy this, you enjoy this. I like soccer or internationally football. I like basketball. I'm a Knicks fan. That's fine. But like, I don't think those should occur at the White House in matters of war and peace. And we shouldn't have our soldiers saluting, that is as much as my view. But we know that there's going to be efforts to derail it. We know that Donald Trump's going to move on to his next distraction. So it's important that we all stay very vigilant about what happens over the coming days and weeks. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.